Welcome to the Prescott Lab Podcast, not just theory, practical science for everyone. I'm Dr. Jonathan Prescott, a physician and integrative medicine researcher at the Ravenshade Institute for Human Health, and today I want to speak directly to the men listening, especially those in their 60s, maybe 70s, even early 50s who have been quietly wondering, is it me? Is it age? Is it too late? Is the man I used to be just gone? You wake up in the morning and there's no rise. No signal, no proof of life, and somewhere deep inside, even if you don't say it out loud, there's that quiet, sinking feeling, maybe I've crossed some invisible line and there's no going back. But let me tell you something as your doctor, and maybe more importantly as your ally, that voice in your head, it's lying to you, your body hasn't given up. It's simply crying out for attention. What looks like old age is often just a blood flow issue. And blood flow, my friend, is fixable. But here's the catch, no one told you that, not your GP, not the TV commercials, not even the little blue pills that pretend to be the answer, because those aren't solutions, they're silence. And if you're still listening right now, then I know you're the kind of man who's done being silent. You want answers, you want change, you want you back. Now, before we go any further, let me ask something small but important. If this message speaks to you, even just a little, hit that like button, not for me. For the thousands of other men who are searching for this exact truth but haven't found it yet. Because every like, every comment, every subscribe, it tells the algorithm that this topic matters. And honestly, it gives my team and I the fuel to keep going, to keep researching, to keep showing up for you. So thank you. Now let's get into the real reason we're here. You've been told your performance is fading because of age. But what if it isn't? What if the problem isn't your hormones, your desire, or even your testosterone? What if it's simply a signal, a warning sign your body has been flashing for years and no one ever taught you how to read it? In just a moment, I'll show you the truth about what's really behind those weaker mornings. Because understanding this one thing may be the key to unlocking the strength, confidence, and vitality you thought you'd left behind. Let's begin. 1. Why erections fade and why it's not your fault. Harold was 66 when he sat down in my office and said the thing I've heard more times than I can count. Doc, I guess this is just part of getting older, right? And I looked him straight in the eye and told him the truth. No, not entirely. What you're feeling is real, but age isn't the villain here. Because here's what most men don't know. What you're blaming on time, on hormones, on bad luck, or even shame might actually be something far more practical. Blood flow, that's it. That's the engine behind every strong, lasting erection. And when that engine starts sputtering, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means your pipes need cleaning. It means the highways inside your body, the arteries, are narrowed, stiff, inflamed. And if your blood can't get where it needs to go, no amount of desire or effort can make up for that. Think about this. The arteries in your penis are about 1/3 the size of those in your heart. So they're the first place damage shows up. Not because they're weak, because they are early warning systems. Your body's not failing you, it's flagging you down. Now here's where it gets empowering, because you can improve blood flow. You can repair the lining of your arteries. You can support nitric oxide, the molecule that tells blood vessels to open and welcome circulation. And you can do it without prescriptions, without shame, and without losing your dignity. I've seen men in their 70s regain function they thought was gone, not because they reversed age, but because they treated blood flow like the foundation it is. So before you write yourself off, ask yourself this. Have you actually given your circulation a chance? Because once you do, the changes can be faster, deeper, and more meaningful than you think. And hey, if something in what I just said hits home, or even if you disagree, leave a comment. Seriously, I read them. I respond when I can. And more importantly, your voice helps other men know they're not alone. So let's talk about it. What do you think? Are we being told the full story or just sold the easy one? Now, if blood flow is the key, the next logical step is this. How do you actually support it? Because knowing the problem is one thing, but knowing what to put on your plate tonight to start solving it, that's where real change begins. 2. Leafy Greens, your first line of defense. I remember Glenn. He was 64, ran a small construction business, tough as nails, hands like old leather, but his confidence had been unraveling. Doc, he said, I still feel the drive, but the equipment's not showing up. He laughed when I told him to start with leafy greens. Spinach, you're telling me lettuce is gonna fix this? No, Glenn, not lettuce, medicine in disguise. Leafy greens like spinach, kale, arugula, beet greens, they're not just salad filler. They're nitric oxide factories. They nourish the lining of your arteries and help them relax, expand, and deliver blood where it's needed most. Without nitric oxide, even the strongest man can feel weak. But with it, you give your body the green light to rise again, literally and metaphorically. Now I know some of you are thinking the same thing Glenn did. And actually, let me read a couple of recent comments we got on the channel because this keeps coming up. James from Tennessee wrote, Dr. Prescott, I've been eating greens for a month and nothing's changed. Am I doing it wrong? And then there's Lewis, 58 from New Mexico, who asked, can I just take a nitric oxide supplement instead? I hate the taste of kale. Let me answer both at once. James, chances are you're not doing it wrong, you're just not doing it consistently enough or in combination with the other changes that matter. Greens aren't magic overnight, they're fuel, they work over time like pouring water on a dry field, not flipping a switch. Lewis, I get it, kale's not winning any flavor contests, but here's the thing. Supplements try to mimic what greens do naturally, but they always fall short. Because greens don't just give you nitrates. They give you fiber, antioxidants, minerals. They repair the entire system, not just one mechanism. If you really can't stand the taste, blend them into a smoothie. Sauté them with garlic and olive oil. Hide them if you have to, but don't skip them. Your arteries will thank you, and if they are happy, you'll feel the difference where it counts. Glenn started small, arugula in his sandwiches, spinach in his morning eggs. By month 2, he said, Doc, I'm waking up like I'm 30 again. No pills, no panic, just plants doing their quiet, powerful work. And here's the takeaway, you don't have to overhaul your entire diet tonight. Just make one choice today that feeds your blood vessels instead of fighting them. Now, if leafy greens are the first tool to rebuild blood flow, what happens when you combine them with something that supercharges the effect? Something earthy, unexpected, and yes, bright red. Let's explore that next. 3. Beets, the red root that revives desire. Wallace was 69 and proud of it. He told me, Doc, I can still carry groceries like a teenager, but nothing else seems to want to lift. He wasn't joking. That quiet frustration, that tug-of-war between wanting and being able, it wears on a man, so I asked him one question. How do you feel about beets? He gave me a look like I just suggested chewing on shoe leather. But hear me out. Because what I told Wallace might just change the way you look at this crimson root forever. Beets are one of the richest natural sources of dietary nitrates. Yes, even more than leafy greens. When you consume them, your body turns those nitrates into nitric oxide, the miracle molecule we talked about. That means beets can open up your blood vessels, increase oxygen delivery, and help restore function down there naturally. They don't sedate you like a pill. They wake you up quietly, deeply, and consistently. Wallace agreed to try beet juice every morning, not because he liked it, but because he wanted change. And 2 weeks later, he came back with the kind of grin that needs no explanation. He didn't even sit down, he just said, Doc, you're a wizard. Now let me ask you something. Have you tried adding beets to your routine yet? Roasted, juiced, sliced thin in a salad? Because if you haven't, you might be leaving your best shot at performance sitting lonely in the fridge. And if this podcast just inspired you to finally give beets a fair chance, then do something small to tell me. Tap that subscribe button, not because I'm desperate for numbers, but because this topic matters, and the more men who hit subscribe, the more men YouTube will actually show this to. Plus, let's be honest, I know you'll forget if I don't say it now, so go ahead. Subscribe, then thank yourself later when things start working again. And if beets can supercharge your nitric oxide, then what happens when we add something even more complete? Something with healthy fats, testosterone support, and a name you've probably overlooked for years. Let's open that shell and see what's inside. 4 nuts, the small snack with big effects. Dennis was 61 when he came to see me, still worked part-time at the post office, still played racquetball on weekends, still made his own coffee every morning at 6:45 sharp. He wasn't trying to reverse time, he just wanted one thing. Doc, he said, I don't need fireworks, I just want to feel like I'm not slowly disappearing. And that hit me, because that's what this is really about, isn't it? Not performance for the sake of ego, but presence. Feeling alive in your own skin, feeling like your body still belongs to you. I told Dennis to do one simple thing, add a handful of nuts, specifically walnuts and pistachios, to his daily meals. He raised an eyebrow. That's it, because these little powerhouses are loaded with L-arginine, the amino acid that helps your body make nitric oxide. They're also rich in healthy fats that support testosterone, reduce inflammation, and protect the delicate lining of your blood vessels. In other words, they're nature's slow-release energy. Not just for your heart, not just for your brain, but for your manhood too. Dennis started small, a few pistachios in the afternoon, walnuts in his oatmeal, and after 6 weeks he walked into my office with his shoulders a little higher and a quiet smirk on his face. He didn't say much, just, it's working, everywhere. Here's the thing about nuts. They're not a headline food, they don't promise miracles, but they deliver where it counts quietly, steadily, and without fuss. And sometimes the simplest shifts are the ones that actually stick. Because once a man starts feeling more like himself again, everything else begins to realign: his posture, his attitude, his connection with his partner. But what if I told you there's a food that doesn't just support blood flow or testosterone, but actually protects the very structure of your arteries from the inside out? Something sweet, colorful, almost poetic in the way it heals. Let's take a closer look. 5 berries, sweet repair for blood vessels. Frederick was 72, widowed for 4 years, lived alone, took care of a garden that used to be his wife's pride and joy. He still wore his wedding ring. He came to me with a quiet question. "Do you think I've waited too long?" I asked him what he meant. He hesitated, then said, "I met someone, and I want to be ready if the moment ever comes, but I don't want to be embarrassed." There was something honest in the way he said it. Gentle, hopeful, that same quiet hope I've heard from hundreds of men who aren't looking to relive youth, just to reclaim presence, to feel ready. I gave Frederick the most unexpected prescription I've ever written on a notepad. Start your day with berries. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries. These aren't just for topping pancakes or decorating desserts. They're some of the most powerful protectors of your vascular system. They're loaded with flavonoids, specifically anthocyanins, that repair and strengthen the endothelium, the thin inner lining of your blood vessels. When that lining is healthy, your arteries stay open, flexible, responsive, nitric oxide production goes up, blood flows better, and guess what improves with it? Exactly what you're thinking. Frederick started small, mixed berries with yogurt, a few frozen ones blended into a smoothie. 6 weeks later, he told me she held my hand, and I didn't pull away. I knew what he meant. His body wasn't letting him down anymore, and that made space for his heart to show up fully. Now I want to pause here for just a second. If you're watching this and thinking, "Doc, that's exactly where I'm at right now," then I want you to do something real. Drop a comment. Just say, "I've been there," or "That's me." You don't have to explain. You don't have to write a novel. But when you speak up, even with a few words, you give someone else permission to stop hiding. You help build the kind of space where men don't have to feel ashamed for wanting to feel whole again. And I want this space, this podcast, to be that kind of space, because this isn't just about science, it's about being seen. Now, if berries can protect and repair your blood vessels so beautifully, what happens when you unknowingly eat things that destroy those same vessels a little more every day? That's the part most men never hear about. But we're going there next. 6. The 3 foods that quietly destroy you. Martin was 67, sharp dresser, ex-sales executive, a man who once closed 6-figure deals before lunch. But now he couldn't close the one deal he cared about most, his own sense of manhood. "I'm eating clean, Doc," he insisted, and you know what? He was trying. But when I looked closer, I saw what I've seen too many times. Men doing all the right things, but holding onto 3 quiet killers that undo it all. The first one: processed meats. Bacon, sausage, hot dogs, deli slices. Tasty, sure, familiar, absolutely. But they're packed with saturated fat, sodium nitrite, and inflammatory compounds that stiffen and clog arteries faster than you can say cheesesteak. And your penile arteries, they're the first to suffer. They're tiny, they're sensitive, and they don't forgive easily. The second: refined carbs, white bread, white pasta, cookies, muffins. These aren't just empty calories. They're silent disruptors of insulin, testosterone, and circulation. One of my patients, Greg, 62, used to start his day with toast, snack on crackers, and end with pasta. By week's end, his blood sugar was bouncing like a yo-yo, and so was his mood, his energy, and yes, his performance. We swapped them for oats, sweet potatoes, and berries, and within weeks, he felt lighter, clearer, more there. The third: fried food, especially fast food. Martin used to grab fried chicken on his way home, not out of laziness, but out of habit, out of routine. What he didn't realize was that every bite was a dose of oxidized oil, trans fat, and systemic inflammation. The kind that doesn't just make you sluggish, it makes your arteries brittle, makes your testosterone nosedive, makes you feel faded. So here's what I told him. I'm not asking you to become a monk, but if you're feeding your body what clogs it, don't be surprised when nothing flows. And to his credit, Martin made the switch. Simple roasted meals at home, less packaging, more produce. Within 3 months, his blood pressure dropped, his energy returned, and his partner called to thank me personally. If you've been doing all the right things and still not feeling the difference, maybe it's not what you're adding. Maybe it's what you haven't taken out. Because even the strongest efforts can be undone by the wrong routine. And here's something I'd love for you to think about. What's the one food you eat every week, even though you know it's not doing you any favors? If you're brave enough, write it in the comments, not to confess, but to start letting go. Because the next step isn't guilt, it's strategy. Let me show you how small changes, realistic ones, can build something far more powerful than willpower ever could. 7. Start small, build big. Howard, 63, told me something I've never forgotten. Doc, I didn't get here in one day, so I don't expect to get out of it in 1 week. And that's exactly it. Too many men give up before they even begin, not because they're lazy, but because the mountain looks too high, too steep, too late. But what if the mountain isn't even the point? What if all you needed was the first step? Let me answer a few questions I've heard again and again from men just like you. Doc, I work late. If I eat dinner at 9 p.m., is that hurting my blood flow? Not necessarily. It's not just when you eat, but what and how much. If your dinner is light, rich in greens and proteins, and not spiking your blood sugar, you're okay. But if it's heavy, fried, or carb-loaded, it's going to weigh on you all night, including your circulation. What if I don't like vegetables at all? Can I still make progress? Absolutely, you just have to get creative. Blend spinach into smoothies with frozen mango. Roast broccoli with garlic and lemon. Start with one vegetable you tolerate. That's enough. Build from there. Can I drink wine or whiskey and still see improvement? Moderation matters. 1 glass of red wine now and then, especially with meals, can even support heart health. But nightly hard liquor or heavy drinking, that's going to work against you. You're not a monk, but you're not a machine either. Find the balance that honors your goals. How long until I see results? Some men feel a difference in 7 to 10 days, especially in energy, mood, and sleep. Others take 6 to 8 weeks to notice stronger performance. But here's what I always say. If you're eating for blood flow, every good decision is already a win even before you see it. I'm too tired to cook. What's one thing I can start with? Oatmeal with berries and walnuts, 5 minutes, no excuses. You just rebuilt your arteries before 8 a.m. See, this isn't about flipping your life upside down. It's about upgrading your habits without overwhelming your mind. One better meal, one 10-minute walk, one less processed food. You stack those wins, you build momentum. You stop waiting for motivation and start building discipline through repetition. And here's something men don't hear enough. Your body is still listening, still responding, still capable of healing, even if you've made mistakes, even if you've ignored the warnings, even if you've been numb for a while. This isn't about perfection. It's about progress that sticks. Howard didn't wake up with a six-pack or a Hollywood story, but 3 months in, his wife whispered, "You feel like you again." That's the point, and now that you've started, I want to show you what happens when progress isn't just about biology, but about becoming whole again physically, mentally, relationally. There's something powerful about seeing a man return to himself. Let's go deeper. 8 real stories, real men, real change. Raymond was 70, retired Army sergeant, widower, still stood straight as a flagpole, still folded his shirts like he was reporting for inspection, but his voice cracked when he said this one line. "I know how to survive, Doc, but I don't know how to feel alive anymore." He hadn't touched a woman in over a decade, not because he didn't want to, but because somewhere along the way, he stopped believing he could still be that man. He said his body betrayed him. I told him, no, your body didn't betray you, it simply followed orders. Years of stress, years of skipping meals, grabbing fast food, ignoring the warning signs. His body was just doing what it was told: protect, retreat, survive. So we made a new plan, not a 30-day challenge, not a quick fix protocol, a quiet re-entry. He started with beet juice in the morning, a handful of walnuts and berries, greens sautéed in olive oil, water instead of soda, walks after dinner, not for weight loss, but for motion, for oxygen, for presence. 3 weeks in, he told me his hands were warmer. 6 weeks in, he said, "Doc, I woke up with a tent this morning, first time in years." 8 weeks in, he signed up for a ballroom dance class at the local community center. And at week 10, he came into my office not to talk about blood flow, but about someone named Helen. "She wears green," he said, "like spinach, you'd be proud." That's when I knew the work was done, not because of what his body could do, but because of how he was showing up again, not hiding, not apologizing, but allowing himself to want something again, to reach, to connect. Raymond is not an exception, he's proof. And if you've made it this far in this podcast, I want to ask you something, not as a doctor, but as a man talking to another man. What would it feel like to show up again, not just in the bedroom, but in your skin, in your voice, in your presence? Drop your answer in the comments if you're ready, even just one sentence, because your words might be the reason another man decides not to give up this week. And in just a moment, I'll give you one final reminder, not just about food, not just about performance, but about what's still possible when you stop settling and start remembering who you are. 9. The final word, you're not broken. If you've come this far, let me say something that most men never hear. I'm proud of you, not because you followed every word, not because you're perfect, but because you stayed, you listened. You cared enough to wonder if change was still possible. That matters more than you know, because most of the world tells men to shut up, man up, and just accept it. Shrinking energy, fading desire, gone mornings. Get used to it, they say. But I say no, you're not broken, you're not too late, and you're not alone. Every story I've shared today, Raymond, Howard, Frederick, Dennis, they're not success stories because they became superhuman. They're success stories because they started exactly where you are, uncertain, tired, but still willing. And now I want to ask you one final thing. If this episode gave you hope or a plan or even just a sense of I'm not the only one, hit the like button. Not to feed an algorithm, but to feed the movement. Because every like tells YouTube, hey, this matters. Don't hide this from other men who need it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, maybe this is your sign, not because you owe me anything, but because you owe yourself a space that speaks truth without gimmicks or shame. That's what we're building here. And if you've got a question, even a simple one like, is peanut butter okay? Can I still eat steak? Or something deeper like, do I tell her the truth about why I've been pulling away? Drop it in the comments. This isn't a lecture, it's a conversation, and I'll be here reading, responding, cheering you on. You are not done yet. You are not a shadow of who you used to be. You are a man in progress, and that's more than enough. So I'll leave you with this. Your next meal can be a message to your body that you're back. Your next walk, a signal that you still care. Your next breath, a reminder that strength doesn't disappear. Sometimes it just forgets how to speak. Help it remember. Thank you for being here. Thank you for not giving up. And until next time, stay strong, stay curious, and stay connected. We've only just begun.